The blizzard swallows the Montana Valley in white silence. Beneath that quiet former Navy SEAL Logan Hayes uncovers something the world was never meant to see. A missing boy found alive beneath a frozen barn floor, whispering with the voice of a dead man. As Logan races through snow and fire to protect the child, he discovers a secret government experiment that defied death itself, and a haunting truth: some souls refuse to die. When faith collides with science and one man stands between salvation and damnation, a single choice will decide whose spirit survives the storm. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from and subscribe for more stories of faith, redemption, and the miracles God hides in the coldest corners of the world. Snow had begun to fall again over Whitehorn Valley, Montana, soft, relentless, and eerily soundless. The landscape was a sheet of silver and silence, broken only by the creak of pine branches and the faraway call of a raven. For most, it was the kind of winter that lulled people indoors. For Logan Hayes, it was the kind of winter that made memories surface, memories of the war, the sand, and the noise he could never unhear. Logan, now 38, lived in a small cabin near the tree line, the last shelter before the land sloped down toward the frozen creek. His face bore the hallmarks of a man who had seen too much: cheekbones like carved stone, a short beard flecked with gray, and eyes that never fully relaxed. The left side of his jaw carried a faint scar from shrapnel, the kind that drew curious stares in town but few questions. He preferred it that way. He spoke little, kept to himself, and found solace in routine. The sound of an axe splitting wood, the quiet discipline of polishing his old rifle, and the companionship of the only soul he trusted, Rex. Rex was a 6-year-old German shepherd, broad-shouldered and powerful, with a black and tan coat thickened for the cold. A faint white streak ran down his muzzle, a scar from his deployment days. Like his master, he had once served with the Navy SEALs. The two of them had fought together in Kandahar, where Rex had saved 3 men from a buried IED. When the war ended, Rex had been marked unfit for active duty, too anxious, too reactive. Logan had signed the papers himself to bring him home. Since then, they had been 2 broken creatures surviving the quiet together. The town of Whitehorn was small, its people simpler, but cautious around outsiders. Logan wasn't an outsider by definition. He was born 2 towns over. But a man who rarely spoke became a mystery fast. The only one who occasionally visited was Sarah Nolan, a 35-year-old woman who ran the post office. She was tall, narrow-shouldered, with a tangle of auburn hair and soft eyes that carried their own kind of sadness. Her husband, a forest ranger, had died 2 winters ago in a blizzard trying to rescue lost hikers. Sometimes she brought Logan mail or leftover soup, and sometimes she just stood by the fence, saying little. He appreciated her silence. It was Sarah who mentioned the boy first. "Eli Turner," she said, holding the newspaper under her arm as snow gathered on her coat. 9 years old. Disappeared from his front yard 3 days ago. They say he might have wandered off, but... She hesitated, eyes dropping. "I don't think he did." That night, Logan couldn't sleep. The wind scratched at the cabin walls like the whisper of old ghosts. He poured himself black coffee, sat by the window, and looked toward the valley where the old Whitaker barn stood. An abandoned structure from the 1940s, half collapsed, the roof sagging under ice. For the past several nights, he'd noticed something odd. Around midnight, headlights cut through the snow, Someone driving down the old farm road, stopping by the barn for 15, 20 minutes, then leaving. No one else lived out that way. Logan told himself it wasn't his business, but that was before Sarah mentioned the missing boy. The next evening, he parked his truck at the ridge and killed the engine. The world fell into silence, save for the ticking of cooling metal. He pulled his coat tight and signaled to Rex. Together, they trudged through knee-deep snow toward the barn, the moonlight turning the world to silver and bone. Each step crunched like the sound of breaking glass. Rex paused halfway, nose to the wind. His ears twitched. A low growl rumbled in his chest. Logan crouched beside him. "You smell something?" The dog's tail stiffened. That was enough. Logan eased his pistol from its holster, his breath clouding in the air. They reached the barn. Its wooden doors were chained, but loosely, as if meant to look secure. He tested the latch. It clicked open too easily. Inside, the air smelled of oil, rust, and something else. Chemical, sharp, sterile. A faint humming noise pulsed from deeper within. He flicked on his flashlight. Empty feed bins lined the walls. A work table was covered with scattered tools, glass syringes, and what looked like medical tubing. In the corner sat a generator, its lights blinking in rhythm with the hum. On the wall, a calendar hung open to December, but the year printed was 1996. Logan's pulse quickened. He'd seen setups like this before, overseas, in places where people vanished into basements and came out as test subjects. He swept the beam of light across the floor, and that's when he noticed the footprints. One large, booted, and another smaller, barefoot. The smaller prints ended at a pile of straw near the back wall. "Rex, stay." He knelt, brushing the straw aside. Beneath it was a sheet of plywood, fresh cut, nailed crudely into place. The air below seeped through the cracks, stale, warm, wrong. He pressed his ear to the wood. Nothing. Then a faint thud. Once, twice, like a heartbeat, muffled in earth. "Jesus," he whispered. Just then, headlights flashed through the barn slats. Someone was coming back. Logan killed the flashlight, grabbed Rex by the collar, and ducked behind a stack of feed sacks. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped in, tall, heavy-built, wrapped in a thick parka, with the hood pulled low. In his gloved hand was a flashlight, in the other a metal case. The man moved with practiced calm, humming to himself as he set the case on the table. When he lifted his head, the light revealed a face Logan hadn't seen in nearly a decade. Dr. Alan Crow, the former Navy medic from their unit, the man who had once saved Logan's life after an ambush in Syria. Crow looked older now, early 50s, hair gone silver, eyes cold behind his glasses. "Still working in the dark," Logan muttered under his breath. Crow knelt by the plywood hatch, pressed something on a keypad, and the faint whir of a servo echoed. The panel began to lift. Logan caught a glimpse of what was below, a dim light, a small hand twitching, and the sound of a child whimpering. Every instinct in him screamed to move, but he forced himself still. Crow leaned down, speaking softly into the dark. "You're doing so well, Eli. Just a little longer, and you'll make history." Rex growled low, teeth bared. Logan's grip on his collar tightened, but the old dog trembled, muscles coiled like wire. Crow froze, eyes darting toward the sound. "Who's there?" Logan took a slow breath, heart pounding. Snow hissed outside like static. He looked at Rex, whispered, "Not yet, buddy." Crow reached for his gun. The next second, Rex lunged, knocking a metal can across the floor. The flashlight toppled, spinning wildly. In the chaos, Logan rose from the shadows, his weapon drawn, only to find Crow staring straight at him, recognition dawning in his eyes. "Hayes," Crow rasped, "you shouldn't have come back." The child below whimpered again. Then a faint beeping sound from the open hatch. A countdown began flashing red on Crow's wristwatch, 0:59, 0:58. And that was when Logan realized the floor wasn't just hiding a child, it was wired. The numbers on Crow's wristwatch blinked like a dying heartbeat. 00:56, 00:55, 00:54. Logan's instincts, honed by years of combat, took over before thought could intervene. He lunged forward, kicking the pistol from Crow's hand and shoving him against the wooden beam. The doctor grunted, struggling, his silver hair catching the flashlight's erratic beam. "You don't understand," Crow hissed. "This isn't what you think." "It never is," Logan snapped, grabbing the watch and twisting his wrist until the clasp broke. The beeping stopped, but the faint whirring under the floor did not. Something mechanical was still alive beneath them. Rex barked once, sharp and urgent, circling near the open hatch. Logan knelt, flashlight trembling slightly in his grip. The child was still down there, eyes wide, pale skin gleaming under the weak light. "It's okay, kid," Logan said, lowering his voice to the calm, low timbre that used to cut through chaos on the battlefield. "My name's Logan. You're safe now." The boy's lips moved, barely audible. "It hurts." His wrists were bound with medical tape. A thin IV line ran to a small battery-powered pump. The sight made Logan's stomach twist. Crow coughed, blood flecking his lips. "You can't remove him yet. You'll kill him?" Logan turned, fury burning through the frost in his veins. "You did this to him?" Crow smiled, a terrible calm in his voice. "I'm curing him. You think war ends on the battlefield, Hayes? It just changes its lab coat." The whir beneath the boards grew louder, a deep hum that vibrated through the floor. Logan dragged Crow up by the collar. "Turn it off." "It's not a bomb," Crow said, smirking. "It's life support." The word hit him like a punch. He dropped Crow, leaned over the hatch again, studying the wires that snaked around the boy's body. Oxygen tubes, saline lines, small electrodes attached to his temples. He'd seen experimental setups before, trauma recovery, neural reprogramming, but never something this crude. Rex whined and scratched at the floor. The old dog's instincts were screaming, too. Logan forced himself to focus. He tore his combat knife from its sheath and cut through the cords binding the boy's wrists. "Hang on, Eli." He lifted the frail child into his arms, feeling the weak flutter of his pulse against his chest. "We're getting you out of here." The hum faltered, then stopped altogether. Silence. Heavy. Expectant. That silence broke with the slam of the barn door. A flashlight beam swept across the room. "Police! Drop your weapon!" a voice barked. Two deputies in heavy winter coats stormed inside, pistols drawn. The lead officer, Deputy Colin Briggs, was in his mid-40s, broad-shouldered with a trimmed mustache and a permanent frown carved into his forehead. He'd been in Whitehorn law enforcement for 2 decades, known for being fair but inflexible, a man hardened by years of small-town crimes and winter tragedies. Logan froze, still cradling the boy. "It's not what it looks like." "Every guilty man says that," Briggs replied, motioning to his partner to secure the scene. His partner, Officer Renee Park, a Korean-American woman in her late 20s, with sharp eyes and a controlled, wary posture, kept her weapon steady. She was new to the force, and her every movement screamed by-the-book precision. Rex growled, positioning himself between Logan and the officers. "Easy, Rex," Logan murmured, raising his free hand. "The doctor did this. The kid—" "Step away from the child!" Briggs cut him off. His flashlight caught the blood on Logan's glove and the pistol on the ground. "Jesus Christ," he muttered. "Sarah was right about you." Logan frowned. "Sarah?" "She said you'd been watching people up here at night. You've been acting strange, Hayes. Now I find you in a barn with a kid and a body." He glanced at Crow, who had gone silent, slumped against the wall. "He's not dead," Logan said, frustration sharpening his tone. "But he should be." Briggs gestured to Park. "Get the boy to the car." Park hesitated, then crouched near Logan, taking the child carefully. Eli whimpered but didn't resist. "He's cold," she whispered. "We need paramedics now." As they carried the boy out, Logan stepped toward Briggs. "You need to listen to me. That man, Crow, he's ex-Navy, a doctor. He's been running some kind of experiment." Briggs's jaw tightened. "Experiment. Right. You really expect me to believe that? The kid's nearly dead, and you're the one standing here with the gun." Before Logan could answer, a sound cut through the barn, a soft electronic chirp. Crow was conscious again, his hand reaching for something inside his coat. Logan moved fast, slamming his boot on the doctor's wrist. A small metal transmitter clattered to the ground. A blinking green light flashed on it. "What the hell is that?" Briggs demanded. Logan recognized the frequency reader, standard issue for encrypted remote devices. "He's not working alone," Logan said quietly. "Someone's coming." Outside, through the cracks in the barn walls, the sound of an approaching engine echoed. Headlights flared in the distance, bouncing along the snow-covered road. Not a police car. The lights were tinted red. Military red. Briggs squinted toward the noise. "You expecting company, Hayes?" Rex's ears flattened, a low growl rising again. Logan's heartbeat accelerated. The truck stopped halfway down the road, and 3 figures stepped out, all dressed in black winter gear, masks covering their faces. They moved like soldiers, coordinated, silent. One of them carried what looked like a tranquilizer rifle. Crow smiled weakly from the floor. "See? They came for him, and maybe for you too." "Get down!" Logan barked. The first tranquilizer dart shattered against the barn door. Snow burst in as the deputies fired back, their gunshots deafened by the storm's howl. Park ducked behind a haystack, shouting into her radio, "Dispatch! Officer down! Repeat! Under fire at Whitaker Barn! We need backup now!" Rex lunged forward, barking furiously, knocking over barrels to create cover. Logan pulled Briggs behind a beam. "They're not here for you," he said. "They're here to erase the evidence. The boy, the doctor, all of it." Briggs looked at him, eyes narrowing. "And how the hell do you know that?" Logan's gaze was steady. "Because I've been on the other side of this before." A silence fell between shots. The hum of the storm filled the gaps, then a faint metallic click near the back wall. Logan turned his head slowly. Another device. Small, blinking red, half buried beneath straw. It wasn't a transmitter. It was an explosive charge. "Everybody out!" he yelled. "Now!" The barn filled with shouts and movement. Rex bounded ahead toward the open door, barking for Logan to follow. Briggs grabbed Crow by the collar, dragging him toward the exit. Park cradled Eli in her arms, sprinting through the snow. Logan turned once more, scanning the chaos. then saw a fourth figure standing by the tree line, barely visible through the blizzard, holding a rifle trained directly on them. A glint of a silver insignia flashed on his chest, a government crest, and before Logan could move, the barn erupted in fire. The world came back to Logan in flashes, white, red, silence, then pain. He tasted blood and ash. When he opened his eyes, the world above him was spinning. Snowflakes fell sideways through the broken ribs of what used to be the Whitaker barn. The explosion had gutted the place. Only a few wooden beams still stood like crooked gravestones. He coughed, forcing himself upright. The cold bit into his lungs. Somewhere nearby, Rex whimpered. "Rex!" His voice cracked. He crawled toward the sound, pushing aside splintered boards and melted snow. Rex lay half buried under debris, his flank singed, fur streaked with soot. The dog's chest rose faintly, alive. Relief hit him like warmth in winter. Logan tore off his jacket, wrapping it around Rex. "You're okay, buddy? Stay with me." The dog's eyes fluttered open. He licked the blood on Logan's hand weakly. In the distance came sirens, one, then another, echoing off the frozen hills. Logan turned toward the noise, squinting through the haze. The police cruiser was upside down near the fence line, its red and blue lights flickering like dying stars. He stumbled through the snow until he reached it. Inside, Officer Renee Park sat slumped against the steering wheel, blood trickling down her forehead, but her chest rising. Alive. He wrenched the door open, pulled her free. Her eyes fluttered open, confusion flooding her face. "Where's the boy?" Logan demanded. Park's voice was barely a whisper. "Briggs took him before it went off." She coughed, gripping his sleeve. "He said hospital." Then she fainted. Logan carried her to the side, laying her against the snowbank, checking for a pulse. Stable. He glanced around. The storm had swallowed the rest of the valley. Of Crow there was no sign. He staggered back to Rex, lifting the dog into his arms. His shoulder screamed in protest. He ignored it. They started walking step by painful step away from the wreck. The barn was still smoldering behind them, sending up a dark plume into the snow-bright sky. Half a mile down the road, headlights approached, a snowplow crawling through the storm. The driver, a stocky man in his 60s, with a round, wind-burned face and a thick white beard, stopped when he saw them. His name was Earl Maddox, an old rancher who volunteered for the county road crew. He'd lived in Whitehorn all his life and had the slow, cautious way of a man who measured trust the way he measured whiskey, one drop at a time. "Christ almighty," he muttered, stepping down. "You look like hell, son." "Explosion at the Whitaker place," Logan said, his voice hoarse. "Need to get to town. Fast. There's a wounded officer back there." Earl's blue eyes widened. "Get in. I'll radio ahead." They drove in silence, the snowplow growling through drifts. Rex lay across Logan's lap, shivering, head pressed against his chest. Every now and then, the old man glanced over. "You that Seal fella lives up by the ridge." "Used to be," Logan said. Earl nodded slowly. "Figures. Only men who've seen war get that look when they say nothing." They reached Whitehorn Memorial Hospital 20 minutes later, a small, weathered building with 2 stories and a flickering neon cross out front. Inside, the air smelled of antiseptic and old coffee. A nurse rushed over, startled by Logan's bloodied face and the limp animal in his arms. "This dog's a soldier," he told her. "He needs treatment." She blinked. "We don't have a vet." "Then get me bandages and antiseptic. I'll do it." His tone left no room for argument. She nodded and disappeared into the hall. As he worked over Rex's wounds, wrapping the burned flank and cleaning the cuts, a shadow loomed in the doorway. Sheriff Dean Harlow, a tall man in his late 50s, with a hard jaw, thinning blonde hair, and eyes the color of slate. Harlow had once been a state trooper, known for his strict adherence to rules and a temper kept barely under control. Losing his son to an overdose 5 years earlier had turned his discipline into obsession. Control was how he survived grief. "Logan Hayes," he said flatly, "didn't expect to see you here. You mind telling me why my deputy's car's upside down and the Whitaker barn's a crater?" Logan wiped blood from his hands. "Because someone wanted it that way. Crow set it up. He's still out there." Harlow crossed his arms. "Dr. Crow? The same man the FBI cleared last year? You got a hell of a story." "I don't care what the Bureau said. He's got a network, men with rifles, tactical gear, the kind you don't buy off the internet. They came for the boy." "What boy?" "Eli Turner, 9, missing for 3 days. Briggs took him to this hospital." The sheriff frowned. "No one named Turner was admitted tonight." Logan froze. "He's not here?" "Not here. Not anywhere in the county record." Harlow's tone softened slightly, the way a man sounds when speaking to someone he half pities. "Maybe the concussions got your memory scrambled." "I know what I saw," Logan growled. Before Harlow could reply, the nurse from earlier hurried over. "Sheriff, there's a call for you. Line 2. Says it's urgent." He took it, speaking in low tones. When he hung up, his expression had shifted from suspicion to concern. "That was dispatch. They found Briggs's patrol truck 15 miles north near Miller's Pass. Empty. Blood on the seat. No sign of him or the kid." The room seemed to shrink. Logan's pulse thundered. He stood. He didn't make it far. Harlow stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You want to tell me why you're so invested in this? The boy, the doctor, what's this to you?" Logan hesitated, meeting his gaze. "Because Crow used to patch up soldiers like me. He told us he was helping us heal. Turns out he was collecting something else." "Collecting what?" "DNA, neural data, whatever he needed to finish whatever the hell he's doing now." For a moment, the sheriff said nothing. Then he sighed. "Get some rest, Hayes. You look like a ghost." As Harlow left, Logan glanced at Rex. The dog's eyes were open now, steady and alert despite the pain. He reached out, resting his hand on its head. "We're not done yet, are we?" The fluorescent lights above flickered. Somewhere down the hall, a door creaked open. A nurse screamed. Logan bolted out of the room, gun in hand. At the far end of the corridor, a gurney lay overturned. Blood streaked the tiles. A security guard was slumped beside it, throat slit. The window at the end of the hall was shattered, cold air howling in. And on the bed that had been empty just moments ago, where Officer Renee Park was recovering, a single thing remained, a folded note pinned to her blanket. He unfolded it, 3 words written in Crow's careful hand. "Bring me back." The storm had not slept. By dawn, Montana was buried beneath new snow, the kind that swallowed tire tracks and erased all evidence of what had come before. Logan stood outside the hospital's back exit, the paper note still clenched in his glove. "Bring me back." The words gnawed at him, looping like static in his head. Rex stood beside him, one paw bandaged, ears twitching to the faint hum of wind. The dog's coat bristled when the hospital doors opened behind them. Sheriff Harlow emerged, coat collar turned high against the cold, his breath forming clouds. "You're not planning on leaving town, are you?" Logan didn't answer. Harlow sighed, rubbing his temple. "The feds are on their way. They'll take over Crow's case. Best thing you can do is sit tight." Logan turned to face him, eyes gray and unyielding. "You think Crow will wait for a committee?" Before Harlow could respond, a nurse ran out. A young woman with round glasses and chestnut hair escaping from her bun. Her name tag read Mila Jensen. She was in her late 20s, petite but steady, the kind of nurse who had learned to stay calm when everyone else panicked. Her voice trembled only slightly. "Sheriff, someone broke into the morgue last night, took the security footage, 2 bodies, and Dr. Crow's medical file." Harlow's jaw tightened. Who the hell would want that? Logan already knew. He glanced at Rex, who gave a low whine as if confirming the thought. Crow's network wasn't just covering its tracks. They were retrieving data. "Do you have the address on Crow's last known property?" Logan asked the nurse. Mila hesitated, glancing at the sheriff. Harlow groaned. "You're not a cop anymore, Hayes. You're a witness." "Witnesses don't carry scars like mine," Logan replied. Harlow stared at him for a long second, then exhaled. "Rainer Valley, North Ridge, you didn't hear it from me." An hour later, Logan's truck cut through snowdrifts on the narrow mountain road. The sky was a dull pewter gray, light bleeding through the storm in streaks. Rex sat in the passenger seat, his muzzle pressed against the window, breath fogging the glass. His wounds were healing fast, but his energy was restless. He could sense the hunt. At mile marker 47, the GPS died. No signal. Logan parked by a fallen signpost half buried in ice. Ahead, the forest thickened into a white maze. The only trail visible was a faint set of tire tracks leading downhill. "That's him," Logan murmured. He loaded his rifle, slung it across his shoulder, and began the descent. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. Not silence, something heavier, the kind of stillness that felt engineered. Rex stopped suddenly, nose lifting. Logan followed his gaze and froze. Hidden beneath the snowdrift ahead was a metal structure half buried in frost, a steel hatch with a faded government seal. U.S. Department of Defense, restricted access. He knelt, brushing the ice from the keypad. It was still active, faintly glowing. He'd seen this kind of lock in Afghanistan, biometric, old but reliable. Crow must have had military clearance. Logan tried the obvious code first, 0725. The keypad blinked green. A hydraulic hiss cut through the cold, and the hatch lifted. Warm air rolled out, carrying the faint smell of ozone and bleach. They descended a narrow staircase of frozen steel. Emergency lights flickered overhead, illuminating sterile white walls now streaked with dust. It wasn't just a bunker, it was a lab. Rows of old terminals lined the corridor, humming faintly, powered by backup generators. Inside glass chambers along the walls floated shapes, some human, some not entirely. Logan's gut clenched. Crow had called it healing. It looked more like resurrection. Rex barked once, sharp and uneasy. The sound echoed off the metal. Logan moved forward cautiously. In the next room stood a control console, its screens alive with static and looping data. He wiped the dust away and froze when a video feed flickered to life. Crow appeared on the monitor. His hair was disheveled, his face thinner, eyes bloodshot but burning with zeal. "If you're seeing this, Hayes," he said, voice faintly distorted, "then you already chosen the harder path." I warned them war would never end. It would only evolve. You know better than most how fragile memory is. Now, imagine if pain itself could be rewritten. Logan's fingers tightened on the console. You're insane, he whispered. Crow's recorded face smiled faintly. You think I'm trying to build soldiers? I'm not. I'm trying to bring back what we lost. Project Rebirth. It started as trauma recovery, but it became something else. They shut us down when they saw what it could do. They said no one should play God. But tell me, Logan, what if God already left? The screen went black. Rex growled, tail stiff. Behind them, a metallic clank echoed. Someone else was down here. Logan turned off his flashlight, crouched behind a pillar. Two figures in tactical black moved down the corridor, rifles raised. Their voices were muffled under masks, but one spoke in a clipped military tone. Retrieve the samples and burn the site. As they passed, Logan moved silently, signaling Rex. The dog crept along the shadows, low and silent as smoke. When one of the men paused to check a door, Rex lunged, fast, silent, his jaws clamping on the man's arm. The rifle clattered to the floor as Logan tackled the second guard, driving a knee into his chest. The fight was brief and brutal. When it was over, both men were down. Logan stripped their IDs, no names, only numbers. On one uniform patch, a symbol caught his eye, a silver serpent coiled around a flame, not military, private, experimental. He pocketed the patch. Crow's not working for himself, he muttered. In the next chamber, they found something worse. A row of capsules, cryogenic tanks humming softly, each one labeled with a series of dates and patient IDs. One read, Subject 09, Eli Turner. His pulse spiked. He wiped the frost off the glass and saw the boy's face inside, pale but peaceful, suspended in blue liquid. Oh, my God, Logan breathed. He's alive. Before he could touch the panel, a loud beep echoed through the lab. The emergency lights turned red. Automated voice, containment breach detected. Facility lockdown in 60 seconds. Rex barked wildly as vents opened, releasing gas into the room. Logan slammed the manual override, grabbed the boy's capsule controls, and started disengaging the clamps. The chamber hissed open, fluid spilling out across the floor. He lifted Eli's limp body out, water dripping from the boy's hair. There was a heartbeat, faint, but there. He wrapped Eli in his coat, sprinting for the exit as the alarms wailed. Rex followed, coughing from the gas. The stairwell loomed ahead. 30 seconds. He climbed, lungs burning, the boy heavy in his arms. At the top, he shoved the hatch open and burst into blinding white daylight. Snow and wind hit him like knives. He dropped to his knees, gasping, clutching the boy to his chest. The lab door slammed shut behind him, sealing with a metallic hiss. The alarms went silent, leaving only the howl of the storm. He looked down at Eli. The boy's eyes fluttered open, blue, unfocused but alive. And then the boy whispered, voice hoarse and wrong, "He's not dead, Mr. Hayes. Dr. Crow's inside me." The drive back through Rainer Valley was silent, except for the engine's low hum and the faint wheeze of the storm outside. Snow clung to the windshield like ash. Logan's hands gripped the wheel hard enough for his knuckles to turn white. Beside him, wrapped in his coat, Eli Turner sat unnaturally still. The boy's skin was pale, lips tinged blue, but his eyes, those clear, crystalline eyes, watched the road ahead with unsettling calm. Not the vacant stare of trauma. Something else. Something aware. Rex, sitting in the back seat, kept shifting uneasily, his nose twitching, low growls vibrating from deep in his chest. "You're safe now," Logan said, more to himself than to the boy. "We're heading home." Eli's voice came after a long pause, soft but steady. "Home. You said that word before." Logan glanced at him. The tone, the rhythm, it wasn't a child's. "What do you mean?" Eli turned his head slowly. "You used to talk about home, too. In the bunker, when you were dying." The words froze Logan's blood. "What did you just say?" Eli blinked as if something inside him recalibrated. "I don't know," his voice faltered. "I just heard it in my head." They drove the rest of the way in silence. By the time Logan reached his cabin near Whitehorn Ridge, the storm had quieted to a whisper. The small wooden house stood dark and half buried in snow, smoke still lingering from the chimney where he'd left the fire earlier that day. He carried the boy inside, laid him near the hearth, and lit the logs. Rex curled up nearby, still watchful. The warmth spread slowly, chasing the chill from the boy's skin. Eli looked around with cautious curiosity. "This is where you live?" "Yeah," Logan said, kneeling by the fire. "Not much, but it keeps the cold out." "It's quiet," the boy murmured. "Crow used to hate the quiet." Logan's hand froze mid-motion. "What did you just say?" Eli frowned, confusion shadowing his face. I didn't mean to say that." Logan studied him closely now. The boy's features were delicate, freckled nose, brown hair in disarray, but behind those small gestures lurked something impossibly mature, a calculating stillness. He'd seen that same expression on soldiers who'd seen too much. He stood, pacing. His mind tried to rationalize it. Memory contamination, neurological trauma. But the more he looked at the boy, the less human it felt. Rex lifted his head, eyes following the boy. The shepherd's fur bristled. A low, warning growl rumbled from his throat. Eli looked at him, tilting his head. "You remember me, don't you, old friend?" Logan turned sharply. "What did you say?" The boy blinked, startled. "Nothing." Logan's pulse raced. He crouched, looking the boy in the eye. "Listen to me, Eli. Whatever Crow did to you, we'll fix it. But you have to tell me what you remember." The boy hugged his knees. There was light. Then pain. He said I was helping him. He said I could make people come back. "Come back from what?" Logan asked. Eli's eyes glistened. "From dying." Outside, the wind moaned against the walls. Logan sat back, rubbing his face. He thought about Crow's words on the video. "You know better than most how fragile memory is. What if Crow hadn't just experimented with tissue regeneration, but consciousness itself?" He turned toward his old desk in the corner and booted up the dusty laptop he hadn't touched in months. Satellite feed was weak, but the signal caught. He began searching through archived government databases, anything related to Project Rebirth. Hours passed. Midnight came. Rex stirred restlessly by the door. Then suddenly, static filled the screen. A live signal flickered through, a face half-shadowed, speaking through distortion. "Hayes!" It was Crow. The voice was metallic, fragmented, but there was no mistaking it. "You took him, didn't you? You've no idea what you've done. The vessel isn't complete yet. His body can't hold me long." Logan froze. "Where are you, Crow?" The screen flickered. Crow's grin bled through pixelation. "Everywhere." The feed died. A faint voice came from behind him. "He's telling the truth?" Logan turned. Eli stood by the window, pale light from the snow illuminating his small frame. His voice was Crow's voice now, older, colder. "I can feel him inside me. He whispers when I sleep." The boy pressed his hands to his head, trembling. "Make him stop, please." Logan rushed forward, kneeling. "Fight it, kid. He's not you." Eli's eyes darted wildly. "He said you'd say that. He said you're the reason he had to do this. The war, the mission. You left him there, didn't you?" The accusation hit like a hammer. Images flashed in Logan's mind. Kandahar, a collapsed bunker, Crow screaming under rubble while the evacuation order blared. Logan had dragged 3 wounded men out, but couldn't reach Crow in time. When he returned, the site had been bombed. He thought Crow had died. "I tried," Logan whispered, voice cracking. "I tried to save you." Eli's breathing slowed, his body trembling less. The strange light behind his eyes dimmed. "He's quiet again?" Logan stood, staring at the snow outside. The storm had finally passed. In the distance, faint blue lights flickered on the horizon, vehicles approaching, too organized to be locals. He turned back to the boy. "We need to move." But before they could, headlights washed across the cabin walls. A truck rolled to a stop outside, doors slammed, boots crunched on snow. Rex barked once, low and furious. Logan peeked through the blinds. 3 men stepped into view, 2 armed soldiers and a woman between them. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She was tall, elegant, her black coat dusted with snow. Her skin was a deep bronze, and her dark hair, tied neatly back, framed sharp cheekbones and eyes that gleamed with intelligence. She carried herself like someone accustomed to command. When she spoke, her voice was steady, almost soothing. "Logan Hayes," she said. "My name is Agent Marissa Vale. I work with the Department of Defense's Neural Recovery Division. I believe you have something that belongs to us." Logan tightened his grip on his rifle. "You're too late." Marissa smiled faintly, the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. "I don't think so. Dr. Crow isn't dead. And if you want to save that boy, you're going to need my help." Outside, the wind began to rise again, carrying with it the faint hum of an approaching helicopter. The rotor blades carved the winter air into a dull roar as the helicopter lifted off from Whitehorn Ridge. Snow spun in cyclones beneath it, scattering across the pine-covered slopes. Inside, Logan sat strapped beside Agent Marissa Vale, his rifle resting between his knees. Across from them, Eli sat swaddled in a gray blanket, his small frame trembling against the vibration. His eyes were half open, glassy, yet every few seconds they flickered with an intelligence that did not belong to him. Rex lay near Logan's boots, silent, his head resting on his paws, alert but wary. Marissa leaned forward, her expression composed and unreadable. "You did the right thing, Hayes. We can help him now." "Help him how?" Logan asked, voice hoarse. "By locking him in another lab." Her dark eyes met his. "By saving both of them, Eli and Crow. You may not believe it, but Dr. Crow's research could change the way we understand memory, trauma, life itself." "He's a murderer," Logan said flatly. "You saw what he did." Marissa's lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "Visionaries and monsters often share the same blueprint." The helicopter banked left, descending through the storm. Below, a valley opened, cut deep between cliffs, hidden from any road. There, built into the mountain, lay a sprawling structure half buried in ice, a black glass facility glinting beneath floodlights. Marissa called it the Helix Compound. To Logan, it looked like a tomb. They landed on a pad surrounded by soldiers in winter fatigues. As Logan stepped out, a man in a white lab coat approached, flanked by 2 guards. He was in his 40s, tall, clean-shaven, with steel-gray hair and eyes so pale they almost looked silver. His badge read, Dr. Leonard Kessler. The man's posture was military, but his smile was soft, rehearsed. "Mr. Hayes," he said, extending a gloved hand, "I've heard a great deal about you." "Can't say the same," Logan replied. Kessler chuckled. "Fair. You're here because you want answers. I intend to give them to you." Inside, the corridors glowed with cold, sterile light. Glass partitions revealed rooms filled with humming equipment and motionless bodies suspended in tanks. Logan kept his hand near his sidearm. Rex's nails clicked softly on the floor, the only organic sound in the place. Kessler led them to a chamber where an enormous sphere of glass and metal hung suspended above a console, wires snaking out like roots. Inside, a liquid shimmered faintly, swirling in rhythmic pulses. "This," Kessler said, "is the Cognitive Isolation Interface, a containment system for fractured consciousness. Crow helped design it before he lost perspective." Logan looked at the machine, then at Eli. "You're going to pull him out of the kid." "That's the plan," Kessler said. "We'll separate the neural overlays, Crow's patterns from Eli's original mind. The process is delicate." "And if you fail?" Kessler's tone softened, almost kind. "Then neither will survive." Marissa placed a hand on Logan's arm. "You've done enough. Let us handle it." But Logan shook her off. "No, if Crow's in there, he won't go quietly. I'm staying." The procedure began within the hour. Logan stood behind the observation glass as Eli was strapped to a reclining chair surrounded by silver electrodes. Kessler and his technicians moved with clinical precision. The boy's head lolled slightly as sedatives took hold. The monitors pulsed, patterns of color and waveforms filling the screens. At first, it worked. The readings stabilized. Then, as if on cue, alarms began to wail. The lights dimmed to crimson. Eli's body convulsed violently. The screen flooded with overlapping signals, two consciousnesses fighting for dominance. Kessler shouted to his team, "We're losing separation. Crow's imprint is overriding the host." Through the glass, Logan saw Eli's eyes snap open, one blue, one gray. The boy's voice came out layered, distorted. "You never finished the mission, Hayes." "Crow!" Logan shouted. "Let the kid go!" Crow's voice emerged from Eli's small frame, eerily calm. "He's stronger than I expected. You'd be proud. I thought I could override him, but he's fighting back. Remarkable." The lights flickered again. Sparks erupted from the machines. Kessler barked orders, but Marissa was already at the control panel, overriding his commands. "Shut it down!" she yelled. Kessler turned, furious. "You don't understand. If we stop now, we lose them both." "Better that than unleash him again," she snapped. Before either could act, the glass wall shattered. Logan rushed in, covering Eli's body with his own. Electricity danced across the floor. Rex barked wildly, teeth bared. Eli's hands clawed at Logan's coat. His voice alternated, one moment the frightened boy, the next the cold tone of Crow. "He's inside the wires," the boy gasped. "He's trying to leave me." Logan looked toward the core machine, the swirling liquid inside the containment sphere now glowing red. Crow's digital imprint was trying to migrate. Kessler lunged for the console, typing furiously. "If I reroute the matrix, I can trap him in the system, but it needs a stabilizer, an organic anchor." His eyes met Logan's. "Someone has to hold the link." Without hesitation, Logan stepped forward. "Do it." Marissa grabbed his arm. "If you go in there, you won't come out." He met her gaze, calm. "Crow's my ghost. Time I buried him myself." Kessler hesitated, then activated the sequence. A surge of white light filled the chamber. Logan's vision exploded into static, his body freezing mid-motion as the data stream engulfed him. He felt himself falling, not into darkness, but memory. Kandahar, the desert, the screams. Crow's hand reaching up from the rubble. Inside the digital storm, Crow's voice echoed, calm and pitying. "You always thought you could save everyone, even me." Logan faced him, Crow's spectral form hovering within the network's glow. "Not save, end," Crow smiled. "Then end me, soldier." The light consumed them both. When it cleared, the lab was silent. Smoke drifted through broken glass. Eli lay motionless on the floor, pulse faint but steady. Rex whined softly, nudging Logan's body where it lay near the core, eyes closed, peaceful. Marissa stepped forward, trembling. "Is it over?" Kessler checked the monitors. The waveform stabilized, only one consciousness remaining. "Yes," he said quietly. "Crow's gone." But on the console, one small light still blinked, a residual signal in the network, faint, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Marissa's eyes lingered on it. She turned to Kessler. "Save that file," she said. "Washington will want to see it." Outside, dawn broke across the snowfields. The wind carried the faintest sound, a single bark echoing through the valley. In a world of cold science and silent snow, where men tried to rewrite the laws of life itself, there still remained one mystery that no machine could touch: the soul. When Logan gave his life to save a child, it wasn't technology that won that battle. It was love, faith, and the kind of courage that only comes from something greater than ourselves. Some say miracles are rare, but maybe they happen every day when someone chooses compassion over fear, when forgiveness triumphs over revenge, when a broken man still believes he can make things right. Perhaps that's how God still speaks to us, not through thunder, but through the quiet voice that says, "Do good, even when no one's watching." So tonight, as the snow falls over your town and your heart feels heavy with the noise of this world, remember Logan's story. Remember that faith is not about never falling, it's about standing again, even when it hurts. Because somewhere out there, in ways unseen, God still moves through the storm. If this story touched your heart, tell us where you're watching from. Leave a comment below. Share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories of courage, love, and miracles. May God bless you, your family, and every soul who still believes that light can rise even from the darkest snow.